do we all have that family member who tends to be a little bit too boisterous about their money, throw money around? Yes, and the SEC does too, and that is Texas A&M. So
The
Texas
most predictable one to be boisterous, by the way.
exactly right, and probably is like the little brother of an older sibling and picked on a lot, which would be the University of Texas. So here's the issue of why it pertains to the SEC and Tennessee, and even to a larger extent, why it pertains to all of college football. So Texas A&M has shut down their NIL collective. That's after a threat from the IRS. So it's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Somebody that handles your money needs to be Andy Mason in real estate. It's the best service and the biz. Just that simple, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. So Texas A&M shuts down their NIL collective after a threat from the IRS. Give me some more, and then I got questions, Caleb Calhoun.
Okay, so Texas A&M tried to finesse NIL in only a way Texas could do. I mean, this is a state with oil money and billionaires, and if anybody cheats on their taxes, it's billionaires who run oil companies. And so,
No.
And they take giant subsidies from the federal government. They're the ultimate takers. But like, it's
they take little bits of cash from minority convenience store owners in some cases as well.
That's
in the pilot situation. True. Yeah, you like that reference?
And Jimmy Haslam still managed to go into debt because he's such a terrible businessman. Anyways, Dave just killed an advertisement with Jimmy Haslam or pilot with us, but
we're gonna do some Casey's or Buc-ee's.
So
does anybody hate Buc-ee's, or am I the only one? I feel like I'm going to catch circa 2020 COVID in that place. Go ahead, Caleb. You have Buc-ee's up there?
We do not. Not.
It's like they have like 200 gas pumps and brisket that they cook every hour. If you love or hate Buc-ee's, tell me on the message board, because I think it's the most overrated thing ever. They built it to give you an idea of scale, Caleb. They built a whole nother exit at the Sevierville exit so that they could have a Buc-ee's. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's the version of it's Sheetz up where I am.
Okay.
Lots of Sheetz. I don't know.
You watch your language.
You did a lot of road trips, so I feel like you should appear. So, anyways, back to A&M and them being who they are. They decided to try to set up their NIL collective as a non.
One more time, it sounds funny. The Buc-ee's, a big time college football, Texas A&M.
They decided they were going to have their NIL fund be a nonprofit, and they were promising their donors tax benefits in exchange for donations through NIL. And
okay. So let me say this as a business owner, and I mean, Caleb is a guy who you may do your own taxes. This isn't difficult to figure out. This is not a donation. I can guarantee you the businesses we work with that are associated with Jacob Warren and Cooper Mays do not pay and expect to be able to. Well, yes, you expense that on your taxes because it's a marketing expense, but it's sure not a donation in terms of a church or some sort of charity. So this doesn't surprise me they've got it all sideways, because that's a fundamental piece of knowledge you should have. Continue, sir.
Oh, exactly. I guess they were so used to, and you may know this more than me, Dave, but when the donors, when boosters put up a lot of money to build a new athletic facility or help buy out a coach's contract, that counts as a donation that they can write off on their taxes, right? Because they're donating to a public college, technically.
Right. Which is where I want to get going. You're taking me down the primrose path, because I mentioned where this is going a couple of days ago, and I'm not sure if you were listening at that very moment, but I'm going to tell you where this thing's going. Go ahead.
So is this blindsiding donors elsewhere to realize when you donate towards NIL, you can't really write that off? That's an advertisement. Like
a business expense.
It's a business expense. Yes, exactly. I don't think Nike can write off the contract it gives LeBron for working with Nike as a donation.
Right. So the difference is, and I don't want to get into the rigmarole to of this. But the difference is when you claim a donation, you claim that off the profits that your company made. So it lowers your overall profit. If you claim a business expense, yes, you get that taken off, but you still pay a higher tax rate than you would if you were to give it to a church or a charity or something like that. The NIL is clearly not a charity. It's a way to make your football team better. These guys don't care if you can go to Taco Bell or not. They want their football team to be better. So if that means they're more comfortable, that's good. Okay, 4 downs. I'm going to dive into this and wait to see where it ends up and your thoughts on Bucky's on the message board. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Travis loves Bucky's. It surprises me, Travis. 4 downs now off those scores.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
So 4 downs brought to you by Andy Mason of andymasonrealestate.com. Best service and prices in the biz. 4 questions about NIL. And again, go to andymasonrealestate.com. So what down is it, Cooper Mays?
Coop here. First down.
All right. First down. The first question. What does this say about A&M? Let's really hone down our focus. What does it say about the Texas A&M Aggies?
It says that they were just trying to find a workaround and game the system and see if they could pull this off. That's all this says.
I was going to go with too aggressive with a bunch of money burning the hole in their pocket, but I think that's pretty much what you said as well, just in a more descriptive way. So what down is it now, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Okay, is this a one-off thing or is this a big deal? Is this A&M didn't dot the I's and cross the T's correctly, or should there be other schools that are concerned about the IRS giving A&M a threat?
So I don't know if it's a big deal, but I don't want to go one-off, and I know I'm splitting the baby. I'm sorry, but I think Texas A&M is going to be the most aggressive because, like I said, oil executive billionaires are more affiliated with Texas A&M than probably any other school in the country, and oil executive billionaires have a history of trying to cheat on taxes and get handouts from the federal government. So I think this was just a natural progression. But we just talked about Tennessee had a booster who was trying to cheat and do some shady stuff back in the day, and I'm sure has cheated on his taxes. And so this is what happens with very, very powerful people. And NIL is funded by very, very powerful people, and very, very powerful people have very, very fancy accountants and work overtime to cheat on their taxes.
I think it's a big deal. I think even if we don't hear about it, that there are accountants and people within collectives that are scrambling a little bit and trying to make sure that theirs doesn't violate any possible IRS laws. Because, listen, the NCAA has no teeth. The IRS has a lot of teeth. They've got the 3rd and 4th row of teeth like a shark. You don't want to deal with them. All right, 3rd down, Coop.
Like, not the Jim McElwain shark.
No, not that shark. That shark's completely clothed.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down.
That made no sense. And so's McElwain somewhere. Hopefully he has his clothes on, but it's early. Should UT be worried? Should the Vols be worried? 3rd down.
I don't know how Spire Sports is run by this, but I will say this. Danny White had his fingerprints all over Spire Sports being started more than the donors did, whereas the donors were behind the collective at A&M. So I think Tennessee's in better shape because I think Danny White is much more likely to dot his I's and cross his T's. And so I don't put it this way. Danny White runs Tennessee athletics. The donors don't. The donors run Texas A&M athletics.
Right. Okay. So let's put it this way. I would say everybody should be a little bit worried now that the IRS is getting involved, but less worried than the average team because of what you said about Danny White. But he makes a phone call this morning, right? And says, "Hey guys, I just want to make sure that
right."
Yeah.
And Dave, you've covered athletic departments more than I have, where the donors ran the show and the athletic director was a figurehead, right? Where the donors really ran the athletic department more than the athletic director.
Yeah, I think that's less common now, Caleb, because the the athletic directors are businessmen. And I think there's a certain level of respect you have for a businessman over a football coach in most instances. Now, if Nick Saban and the guy who runs the local Buc-ee's walks in the door at the same time, you're going to like Saban more. But if the guy who started Buc-ee's and Les Miles walked in the room at the same time, you're going to go, man, that Buc-ee's guy's got it going on. I don't know about that Les Miles guy, if he's ever going to win anything in football. All right, fourth down, Caleb Calhoun.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Thanks, Coop. What does this mean for the future of the NIL? May I jump on the soapbox for 1 second?
Sure.
And I said it a couple of days ago. What this means is it's all going to go through the university, because with the university, you can claim it as a donation. With it going through the university, you can have absolute control of the disbursement of funds. And I'm not saying they don't with Spire. They may well to the penny. But I can tell you it's getting muddied now by some other collectives that are trying to get started in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I'm sure that's the case of others. And ultimately, I think that you don't want to be tied to any one collective, be it Spire or any other collective. That's not an extension of your university. It shouldn't be viewed like that. So what is the future of NIL? I believe players will just get paid through the university, which will come from donations. So basically, we've taken these steps forward and we'll remedy the fact that the players didn't get enough of the pie, in my opinion. But we're going to go back a little bit, and that the money is going to come through the schools eventually. And I say that happens within 5 years. From what I've been told, the biggest hurdle is going to be if it comes through the university instead of somebody that's out there trying to grow their business, you have to look the female gymnast in the eye and tell her why she's not making as much as the backup left guard. And that's just going to be something they're going to have to deal with. But other than that,
you also have to legally justify it, because Title IX, that could be a blatant Title IX violation too.
Right.
And
so I think that's the hurdle. But given all the hurdles that have been crossed, college football playoff transfer portal, NIL, I think it'll get crossed. I wouldn't have necessarily said that 10 years ago. But I think that's the future of the NIL. It's going to have to come through the university to make sure everything's handled correctly at some point. I mean, there are millions of dollars being thrown around now. You can't tell me. And I said this on a Nashville radio show a week ago, and it got a whole lot of play, which I didn't necessarily mean it to. But I do know of one NIL collective group within the SEC. It's a big-time program. You would know that their operating expenses are about 90%. So 90% of the money goes in their pockets. About 10% actually ends up with the players that they're supposed to be paying for. So at some point, you're going to want to eliminate that. And you're going to want to eliminate the opportunity. Again, not Spire. I'm not saying Spire, but you want to eliminate the opportunity of some other group doing something stupid that could get you in trouble.
I'm going to send a fair warning out to everybody that plays a non-revenue producing sport. Your sport is on the chopping block at your college, because what's going to happen is that once that money's funneled to the players, that's less money for the football program to produce all the money it does for all the other sports that it funds at the university. So what they're going to do is they're going to keep football and basketball and baseball. Those are revenue producing. They have to keep 3 women's sports at that point. So they'll keep women's basketball, softball, and you're right, they might pick gymnastics or something like that. But they're going to cut every other sport, because even the men's sports, the other versions, aren't revenue producing. I'm sorry, Tennessee men's tennis, you probably don't make any money for the university. You're probably gone. And that's the giant red flag I want to send out to everybody now, which is that this way they could cut men's and women's tennis. They could cut men's and women's golf.
I think you're right. But if I'm Danny White, I'm looking at this as the money is going to be so much more significant from a college football playoff and other avenues that I will be able to offset that. I think you're right, but that's what I'm thinking. And at some point, athletic departments don't have to make tens of millions of dollars, which they disperse to associate athletic directors and find every way to spend every dollar because they're technically a non-revenue entity. At some point, it's okay to make a few $1 million. I think it's going to, I think what you'll see is that a lot of the programs now that think they have to build a new building each and every year don't have to build a new building each and every year. What the guys have at Tennessee, it's nicer than what some NFL teams have. Okay, the what they have, the indoor
It's nicer than what
practices,
every NFL teams have. I mean, you
probably.
know this. Former players that play in the NFL, they go and use their college facilities to work out in the off season.
Yeah. And even down to a barber shop, there's food always out. And I'm not talking about okay food. I'm talking about filet, salmon, ribs. I mean, it's always out. So, I mean, at some point, I think we're going to look at this and say, yes, the players deserve a little bit more, but not a tremendous amount more. When we start talking about the 1.8 million, that's where I think the market will level itself out, or the whatever it took to get Nico. I think we'll see it start to level it out. Right now, and I've mentioned his name before, but Dante Thornton was able to go to 3 different schools and say, "What will you pay me?" It's as simple as that. It's like your realtor calls, and I've got 3 people sitting at a desk, and you just say, "My figure is whatever you guys determine it is." It's just market economy, as simple as that. And Tennessee determined the correct number. So Caleb, eventually, I think that comes all from the university, which I don't think.
Yeah, and for everybody whining about that, you either believe in markets or you don't. You either support Dante Thornton or you don't believe in markets. It's
Okay,
one of the other.
And along those lines, when's the last time you've shown up for a crew event or a men's golf tournament for the Vols because you're just there to support? That's market economy. If you're showing up for that and you're paying tickets, then it's a revenue sport. Then it ain't going anywhere because they're making money on it.
Yes. I mean, it's. I totally agree. If you wish, I say this all the time. If you think WNBA players should make more, but you're not spending money on WNBA tickets, don't talk to me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
I totally agree with you. And here's the thing that the reason I want to address it specifically because we cover Tennessee primarily is Tennessee's killing it right now in NIL. So you don't want anything to shake up the olive branch or shake up the tree. You want it to keep cruising like it's going because you're winning. So Tennessee will still be winning, but I don't know that they'll be dominating in NIL because right now, Caleb, I'd say they're one of the top 10.
Oh, they're number one. They're number one
in NIL.
Yeah, Tennessee, and I know this much covering them in 2020, 2021. They were preparing for this to happen before it happened. They were kind of ready for NIL to happen when it happened. And I think Tennessee is, I said 5 years ago, I said this 5 years ago when Tennessee was down in the dumps. And I was like, people were like, how is Tennessee going to be able to revitalize itself? I said, it wouldn't be recruiting because Tennessee doesn't have a strong recruiting base. Tennessee, we didn't have the phrase NIL at the time. We didn't know what that meant. So Tennessee, I said, they just need to get out ahead of the curve and openly pay players and openly defy the NCAA in the process. And even if that happens and they get in trouble, other schools will be forced to start doing that because all the players would be going to Tennessee. And so I said that they should do that. They didn't have to do it because NIL happened, but they were ready for this for years.
Well, I think your guy Jeremy Pruitt did it. I think you and Jeremy Pruitt were on the very same page.
Except Pruitt did it, tried to do it subtly. And
right. On page 189 of How to Rebuild a College Football Program, he actually cited you. He said, start paying players, and he cited Caleb Calhoun as the reason to do that. Now, he did say Caleb did not suggest fast food bags because he didn't want to slander you in any way. But
I said openly do it.
Yeah, he said openly use fast food bags and make them Chick-fil-A.
Well, the problem was Philip Fulmer strongly didn't believe in this. He was very old school of the degree is your pay. Like he really felt that way. And I'm like, that kind of helped Tennessee back. But
I was told, and I don't know this, that it was Jeremy Pruitt's wife who was giving money to players that she suggested Chick-fil-A because it's just a little classier than McDonald's.
Yeah, but what if they're trying to pay a player on Sunday?
I'm not reporting.
I know. But what if? But wait. What? I figured you try to pay your players on Sunday because that's when things are the least active and people are doing the least amount of investigating. And how do you pay somebody in a Chick-fil-A bag on Sunday?
I guess you got to get the stuff on Saturday. Trust me, our family's considered it before. We love our Chick-fil-A. We've considered stuff on a Saturday for a
All that
Sunday.
unhealthy. What is it that they pump into the chicken? Oh, I forget what it's called. Like Chick-fil-A does it worse than anybody. It's so bad for you.
I think Chick-fil-A. Okay, I think Chick-fil-A is the best of the fast food place. Okay, what are beaver nuggets? Somebody on the message board tell me. I guess you get them at Buc-ee's because I was making fun of Buc-ee's a little bit earlier. Robert jokes the cornhole team may get cut. You know what's scary is the cornhole team. You put me in charge of that thing. That's going to be a revenue generating sport.
Cornhole and beer pong.
I'm not even joking, Caleb. I mean, it's getting some play on television. Yes, I could definitely turn that
The
into
spelling bee also gets play on television.
Well, that's because it's terrible company owns them. Or owns the rights.
You mean the company that the SEC has latched its entire future to?
Pretty much. All right. So tell me what beaver nuggets are. Can you Google that? Because nobody's telling me on the message board. I thought somebody would tell me.
That sound. Never mind. I'm just not even going to say what that sounds like.
It sounds awful. It sounds terrible on two different planes, all their own. But
it's like a bag of nuggets that it looks like you eat them like chips almost. Or Cheetos, but they're like little nuggets.
Okay. I'm in for trying the beaver nuggets.